Welcome to my strategy justification for a global market engagement for the not-for-profit group Oxfam. Through this presentation, I will aim to outline and justify a proposed strategy to internationalization with links to market entry, expansion and growth, as well as touching on a variety of international business management strategies and approaches. Oxfam's conduct of its international operations has focused upon objectives and means by which it will achieve them, and cementing itself as a major not-for-profit group with an extensive collection of global operations. Delivering a strategic emphasis to a rights-based approach, Oxfam challenges the concept of agencies delivering aid to victims of disaster. With a forward vision estimating that by the year 2050 there will be 2 billion people more than today, we are squandering precious resources in the modern day. There is an ever-increasing inequality amongst the poor and rich subsectors of the world. The extent of poverty requires practical moral response to its causes and the impact poverty has on people globally. Consolidation must be made of the gains that have previously been made over the past decade in the reduction of poverty, measured in terms of income levels as well as equality. The 8 Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, have helped halve extreme poverty rates, aided in halting the AIDS of HIVs, and provided universal primary education. The set achievements and goals within the MDGs should be long-term and irreversible. Alexander and Corrine in 2008 outlined various reasons why companies should think carefully before embarking on a global strategy. As Oxfam is a not-for-profit organisation, the financial benefits of internationalisation are outweighed by the social implications brought about by the reduction in the shared issues. It asserts that people have rights and that therefore corresponding duty is to ensure those rights are maintained. The Humanitarian Charter, which Oxfam subscribes to, affirms the fundamental importance of the right to live with dignity. Setting an internationalization mission and goals. Now, the global governments and international organization are ever more rapidly shifting their obligations for tackling the larger global issues. These issues may be compounded by political weakness, political expediency, or powerful vested interests. Shifting global powers have resulted in a harsh divide between rich and poor countries on major global issues such as trade, climate change, and issues that impact greatly upon developing countries. Oxfam's strategic plan for 2019 has a vision that establishes local communities and the voices of women, men, and young people at the epicenter of change. Utilizing dialogue and pressure on governments and MNEs, the creation of practical programs that enable human development, dignity, and well-being is through these previously disregarded voices that there is the best hope for ending discrimination, exclusion, and the injustice of poverty. Now, the objectives. At the forefront of internationalization, the mission includes more small-scale marginal producers intensifying their production sustainability and adapting to climate change and increasing their resilience to shocks and stresses. Providing more women previously living in poverty to be economically empowered and to have the ability to influence the decisions that affect them. Local small-scale producers will have the ability to develop resilient livelihoods, including greater food security, participation in food markets, and wholesales and frameworks allowing growth from policies that promote small-scale agriculture. Now, how will we achieve these goals? So, promotion of scalable agricultural production systems that sustainably increase yield and an increase in resilience and adaptation to climate change for well-established farmers and small-scale producers. These farming techniques may minimize the gap, enabling communities to manage land and water resources sustainably and strengthening those most at risk from the prevailing issues. An increased investment in female smallholders in an attempt to support rural women's organizations for positive changes in policies and beliefs surrounding women's roles and wages. Impact states may be provided with frameworks to attract investment and support for development of domestic markets and challenge the private sector to develop transnational and inclusive business models. The flow-on effect from this will be a positive affirmation towards the empowerment of small-scale producers and their ability to improve trade regulation, to enter and influence fair trade value chains. Innovative rural finance models and consumer fair trade movements used in major influential cities provide an attempt to increase financial flows to smallholder agricultural firms, helping to promote policies that benefit the poor by rebalancing investment and services between small and large-scale production. Policy creation strengthens resilience through risk analysis and a reduction in price volatility for standard food commodities. So an internal and external environmental assessment. First of all, we'll start with the external. In September 2017, the External Investment Plan, or EIP, was created, a plan with the objective to foster sustainable development in Africa and the EU. To aid the growth of the plan, European Parliament agreed to a new European Fund for Sustainable Development, the EFSD, supported by two regional investment platforms, Africa and the EU. According to the EU Commissioner for International Development and Cooperation, Neven Mimica, quote, the external investment plan pursues a mid to long-term perspective. Its primary objective is the reduction and, in the long term, the eradication of poverty and addressing the economic root causes of irregular migration. With this statement, the EU proclaims that it will create a win-win situation for, firstly, the local private sector to become more active, and secondly, for EU companies who wish to do business in developing and neighbouring countries. Now let's take a look at the internal environment. The value chain for a given marketable product or service is the sequence of all production and marketing steps. Oxfam aims to promote this sequence within women's economic empowerment. The promotion of this value chain enables women in the surrounding sectors the voice to enable their decisions to impact upon the policies created surrounding them. Some of the main barriers to women's economic empowerment includes access to potential markets to ensure women achieve a fair price for their products. This is very evident in Honduras in Central America. Access to productive resources such as land and water to facilitate growth within the sector, combined with training of proper and sustainable training in attempt to provide a valuable investment into their livelihoods. Poor working conditions is another barrier to women's access to decent employment and economic empowerment. The market entry analysis. So appreciating the social, political, environmental, and economic development context is crucial in the foundation of market entry analysis, as it leads to better project designs and outcomes. It allows Oxfam to foster a common interest and collaborate with other development MNEs in maintaining credibility in providing robust scoping and analysis services. So scoping the new entry into the market. Oxfam has collaborated with the Royal University of Agriculture to scope out potential markets for innovative small-scale rice planting machines. Providing faster and more effective planting equipment has compounded the prevalence of marketing strategies for studies, providing a framework for market entry accessible to small-scale farmers. Situational analysis. Oxfam has led a collaborative analysis of rice-reliant communities across 7 different provinces, backed by government agencies, the World Bank and the EU, aiming at highlighting the importance of sustainable management of rice resources to tackle the persistent risk of terrible labour conditions and empowering women's work rights. So the innovative implications. Some market research concluded by Oxfam included the launch of an innovative scheme named Block Rice, a blockchain-based program that is aimed at giving farmers significantly more negotiation power and to increase the efficiency of the supply chain by connecting buyers and suppliers directly through their system, as well as increasing the transparency and traceability of international supply chains. So, defining the competitive business approach. Oxfam's introduction into internationalization may be appropriate through a multi-domestic business approach, as the firm faces low pressures in terms of cost competitiveness, but high pressures in terms of local responsiveness. The establishment of relatively independent subsidiaries within national markets provide a customization platform relevant to the local market needs, whilst maintaining the local culture and express preferences of the people within the specific market. The decentralization created by this approach enables management in each national market to operate with some degree of autonomy. So management can adopt business practices more appropriate to the local economy. This flexibility and ability to adjust to the ever-changing environment allows for fast responses and the element of chance accounted for. So the demand conditions. The home and domestic demand for prevailing infrastructure created by the Oxfam Group is not as impactful as the foreign needs evident from the less fortunate economy. The domestic environment comprised of a stable economy allows the facilitation of policy creation within an environment that is less tumultuous and more equally balanced. Some of the factor conditions. Providing a nation with factors of production such as skilled labor or infrastructure are necessary to compete in the market. In order to prosper and grow, an emerging nation needs the frameworks in place to provide direction and capital to perform at an established level. Some of the firm strategies, represented by the conditions governing how companies are created, organized and managed, and the nature of the domestic rivalry. Oxfam, being a not-for-profit MNE, aim for a business approach that promotes sustainable business management techniques without focusing on domestic rivalry as a forefront issue. Some of the related and supporting industries. There is an absence in the nation of related industries that are internationally competitive to Oxfam. As profit is not of high concern, collaboration with related and supporting industries is promoted by the thought pattern of helping where help is needed without financial return. So outlining some key foreign investment and entry proposals. Investment into small-scale farming, in particular women operating in the agricultural sector, can provide huge avenues into the eradication of poverty. If developing countries can figure out how to redistribute income effectively and share the benefits of growth with poor populations, then there's no reason progress should slow down. Brazil has demonstrated that effective tax systems finance good quality public services such as health and education can help reduce poverty and inequality. With this increase in publicly available services, the rise of government regulation highlight the importance of effective states. Without this, it may be deemed impossible to eradicate poverty. If developing country governments are able to establish social safety nets to protect their most vulnerable and excluded citizens, then major progress will be made towards addressing inequality and fairness. Some of the international inputs. So foreign sourcing of people capital, skilled in the understanding of host culture, allow for a cohesive and unified foreign investment approach to take effect. Minimal impact upon the emerging market and cooperation surrounding marketing, cohesion and research. Through these strategic alliances, allow firms such as Oxfam to enter the international arena where they could previously not have done so. Some of the international outputs. So local partners may be very helpful in dealing with all sorts of local barriers. Strategic alliance arrangements among companies to cooperate with strategic purposes would be the best international entry strategy to combat resilience to new aiding policies in emerging economies. So impacts on key business functions and operations. Which key business units and functions will be modified and adapted? So the impact in key business functions that will be modified and adapted through the introduction of a multi-domestic entry proposal will include the marketing capabilities and the human resource management competencies. Tailoring these to subsets of the business functions to the host nation is essential in the adoption of the new entry proposal. Creation of core competencies that are personalized to eradicating issues such as women's work rights and poverty are critical to foreign investment formation. How will your operations change for this new foreign outlook? So research and development as a key operating facet will aim to aid the deployment of physical resources and relationships with developing nations. Technological advancements facilitate the mass informational gathering of statistics and figures that highlight nations of importance. A combination of this information gathered and a transnational marketing strategy would aim to combine global efficiency and multinational diversity in the creation of a mentality that thinks globally and acts locally. So what are some of the marketing strategies? Identification, measurement, and the perseverance of market opportunities abroad should be at the forefront of internationalization. A multinational marketing strategy would see the greatest positive results as there is a focus upon the diversity of the international market, implying an adaptation to the needs of each specific market share. Some of the business functions that may be impacted upon. International branding needs to be implemented in an attempt to differentiate the Oxfam's company's offerings. Creation of a brand identification and awareness amongst the populace that is seeking aid is essential in forming a solid brand construction and educating the market about the relief efforts made by the firm. So a summary of the challenges. I've broken this down into the opportunities and then a few questions after. So some of the opportunities and challenges. I'll start with a quote from the managing director of Oxfam. Insurance will not make crops grow. Incorporating risk reduction mechanisms such as weeding, irrigation, and recommendations for planting at the right time can be combined with insurance. This statement from the Oxfam director underpins the mentality of opportunities arising for not-for-profit organisations around the globe. Alongside these opportunities, new innovative ways must manifest within the technological development of international business management in order to help correct and resolve the issues at hand. So how does your strategy respond to the challenges and opportunities? With limited public funds available, investing in one inevitably means investing less in others. This focus of public expenditure on insurance could therefore potentially jeopardize effective and proven risk management approaches. To counteract this potential jeopardization, the strategy must be inclusive of a resource management system aimed at using the provided information to highlight where risk is most prevalent and focus energy and resources to that specific sector. As previously stated, understanding and communicating between the foreign host culture and the inputs associated with the firm will bring a clientele focus to the firm's international strategy. In turn, focusing upon the needs of the consumer may open further opportunities with regard to supplying relief efforts to those in need. Finally, planning for further market engagement. Information communication technologies will be paramount in the communication channels of relief efforts. The firm's direct response to global issues will need to be communicated in a bottom-up approach in an attempt to gain logistical synergies across all business units. By centralizing logistics in a headquarters, new and different market engagement will be fast-tracked to attention for an adequate response to begin. Listening to my presentation, I hope you've enjoyed.